Hey, fellow skeptics, Lester the Skeptic Tank, back at it. What you're seeing here is what I've covered previously, at least in intro form. Kind of weird now that I think about it. I've had about pretty much a week to think about this. GNU Cash, my decided alternative bookkeeping software of choice. And as I alluded to as I wrapped up the video, if memory serves, free of charge, but I do encourage you guys to donate. The one thing I learned working at the .com I had worked at, which I guess if I want to drop a name, it's Hyperkin. They were the ones having brought out the Retron series of consoles. You might have seen them in your local retail outlets. If so, that was cool. It kind of brought a tear to my eye because even though I did end up leaving the company some years back, I think it was 2010, nothing but the best of them. I'm glad to see they're still doing all right. Without further ado, what you're seeing here in GNU Cash is, I'll have to give credit where it's due. Versus QuickBooks, I'll say off the bat, until I explore it more, not exactly the best way if you're a bona fide business in the industry, especially in the industry of e-commerce, where you're tracking your products you sell, and in many ways, unless you're strictly a drop shipping kind of business, and if you guys want to know how that works, I can do a quick video about that, but let me know in the comments. But if you're tracking products you stock and sell, the upside to QuickBooks is you can track that stuff. So products you stock and then you sell. In the QuickBooks world, and I'm sure in other bookkeeping software or financial software, you try to gather information about the valuation of your inventory. So this is where GNU Cash falls short. I'm sure, like I said in the previous video, I might be able to find a workaround. I haven't found any yet, but to be honest, I haven't really thought much about it. So off the bat, what you're seeing here is a likely maneuvering part on my end. This was a bill I was thinking I needed to pay. That's already been processed and paid for prior to starting my updated GNU Cash file. And so, just a little, I don't know if you guys want it. I can do a little bit of rudimentary bookkeeping, but that's based off what I've come to learn in my time supporting QuickBooks. And it wasn't so much that we were bookkeepers. We just knew how the software worked, or at least you tried to marry the software with those who have a professional bookkeeping background, or in many cases, accounting backgrounds. One of the more infamous quips when people talk about their experience supporting a product like QuickBooks is, yeah, you gotta talk to your accountant about this. Well, the number one comeback has often been, I'm the accountant, when when you find that on over the phone. So anyway, this is a bill that I had paid already. I made this transaction thinking I hadn't paid it, and so if you're seeing, and I hope you are able to see, this post function, I had to unpost this because I'm about to delete this bill because I no longer need it. It was already been paid for. So I'm also going to do another edit to a transaction. And so I can, now that I've unposted, this is one of the things I do like about GNU Cash, is because In QuickBooks, if you save the bill, and I guess I can do more comparative stuff, I have to get things set up so I can at least compare the two side by side. It's going to involve a little bit of virtual box action here and there. That aside, I like this idea of hitting not just the save, like at least in the mind of GNU Cash, it's a draft. You're drafting a bill that once it's solidified, you then go ahead and post to your ledger account. So one of the things I kind of appreciate is that it's tabulature. However, I know some people like more pictorial in their graphical presentations. QuickBooks is nice about that. It does both. And like I said, I'll likely do some virtual box action so I can compare the two side by side. Particularly for those who haven't been around QuickBooks, they kind of know. I'm not surprised if people know QuickBooks by name, because they've been inundated with various QuickBooks commercials. So I can go to my account, and bills are generally going to hit your liability account or accounts payable. So I'm going to go in to the bill, and I'm going to delete it. That one I hadn't paid yet. However, for a previous bill I had, I'm going to go to business, and I'm going to go to vendor, and I'm going to go to vendor. Let's go to vendor overview. The one thing you'll find in a lot of bookkeeping software, a good one anyway, will be your ability to work with lists. More importantly, the way to differentiate. And I appreciate the verbiage. Maybe it's because of my experience with QuickBooks, is that you can differentiate what's the nature of the transaction you're trying to record. And that's the nice thing about most bookkeeping software, is depending on how the wedding of the internet and your bookkeeping software, sometimes you don't want that. You don't want to be too wed to the internet, particularly when it comes to online banking. Sometimes I can get a little murky if things happen. Plus, I don't like the idea of having to mess with bank rules, because you're trying to marry conditions in an online banking transaction and put that into your bookkeeping software, trying to match those terms, and it would record properly in your bookkeeping software. So going back to this, I have to go in and edit a bill for Rite Aid, and this is something I am going to look into more, because I had looked into this. I thought I was going to recompile it without Python rendering my reports, but according to this, there's a bug between WebKit, one of the dependencies in this program, and NVIDIA, which I do have, GPUs, video cards. So there's that. However, what I can do is I can go back to accounts. And the thing about bookkeeping software, especially with the main feature in a lot of them, it's called double-sided accounting. Because of what I'm going to have to edit, I have to go into my bank account. I have to look for the transaction I need to edit, which is this one. And I believe what I can do is I can edit this transaction. And I can delete it also. Let's see what I can do here. Aha, edit the payment. Maybe I can do it that way. Let's see how far I can go. Oh yes, there it goes. That's how much it ended up costing. And I can update what the memo is going to remind me of this transaction of being. There it is. Now, what does that mean about my... Well, let's see. Did I edit that correctly? Aha. Let's see, continue. Did I not save it right? Guardians. Hit OK. So what does this mean? Do I have to go back and delete the payment? I don't know. Let's see, because I thought, let me see if I go back. I can actually use Control W. Clean up my list of what I'm seeing. Go back into what is called the register. Let's see. What if I just end up deleting the payment? I'll delete the payment. Because at least it doesn't look like it's updating my changes. Alright. I'm going to go to my accounts. And because the bill is going to be in my accounts payable, let's go into my liabilities. Interesting. Let's see here. There it is. I'm going to go into my Rite Aid, and I'm going to go to this bill. Looks like I need to jump. Let's jump to the invoice. I'm going to unpost it. Okay. And change that. I'm going to save. And then I'm going to post. Yes. Post date. No, not today. Oh, well, no, that works. Okay. I'm going to pay for it. And dates are an important thing to keep in mind. And I'm going to put in a memo. And that way it can more accurately reflect. And the thing I like about GNU Cash is that it will give you some reminders about your upcoming bills. So there's that. Going back to the list and working with them, when they talk, when you think about recording transactions, is it going to be something for you bought from someone, or someone bought from you or paid you for something? So I do appreciate the splitting up between customer, a vendor, and in some cases an employee if you got to track that stuff. The thing that gives QuickBooks an advantage is for non-posting transactions on either the customer or vendor side of the equation, you can create what are called purchase orders or sales orders. And then that will be weighed against an invoice or a bill. Bill for a vendor, invoice for a customer. Although it appears, based on what I just demonstrated, GNU Cash will use the words interchangeably. Particularly as you saw me go into the bill that we just edited and we paid for. And I can close this due reminder. One thing I noticed about GNU Cash is the way it works with your data as you work inside it. This is very, very, very verbose way of tracking your data. If I were to just go back a step and get an idea of how big this ends up being, well, in some it looks like that still takes the cake in terms of keeping your footprint low on the file size. Now, granted, with the evolution in storage technology and how things have gotten way bigger over time, I mean, we used to think a terabyte was a lot of space or a lot of data. It still is, but when compared to what we have now, I think they've gone up to a petabyte. Again, back to my partitioning video or my setup of Linux video, you either have to have a large data set or you just have a lot of video files stored on that one storage device. Now, when it comes to the program, I don't know if I'll be able to tell if it grows any bigger. How will my navigational performance be? Well, then again, I'm on an NVMe drive, storage device, I guess you can call it a drive, but it's not a platter, so things won't be as slow. I'm glad that, for the most part, platter drives are not as commonplace versus what are known as solid state and now NVMe being more commonplace. Granted that the motherboard I'm using is a little bit on the older side. I don't know where they are now. So anyway, well, with that said, appreciate you sitting through my little workaround here about tracking my financials, doing a better job of that. So going back to vendors, I'm going to start adding more bills because that's one thing I realize I need to keep track of. Again, with that pop-up about the due reminders, that will help you stay afloat of, okay, this is about to be due. And if you have other means of income aside from your day job, if that's what you do, or if you're an entrepreneur, at least when it comes to working with dates, you will be able to think about strategy or tactics when it comes to making sure you are above level, if that makes sense. All right? All right, well, thanks again, fellow skeptics. Until next video, peace out, and I'll catch you all on the other side.